Welcome, everybody, to the show, and thanks for coming out tonight. This is the kickoff show for the fantastic San Diego Historical Games Convention Winter Quarters. Is that what we're calling it still?
It is.
Outstanding. And this is the kickoff show. It'll be most of the events will be tomorrow. We'll get into the schedule in a minute. And then we'll wrap up all together at what time, Harold? Is it 9 p.m. Pacific time?
Pacific time, it will be. Wrap up show starts at 7, but the
7 p.m. Pacific time.
Convention's over around that time, but the rooms will be open. So if somebody wants to stay and play for a couple days, they can.
Sure, my kind of game, exactly. That sounds fantastic. We are currently struggling to figure out what we're doing at Winterfest in a couple of weeks since our plans got abruptly changed, but it's all good. So joining us also is our good friend Mr. Harold Buchanan, the mastermind behind the San Diego Historical Games Convention, although I'm sure he will rush to credit the other folks who help out. Also joining us are Mr. Volko Runke and Joe Schmidt, who everybody should know all four of these gentlemen. Well, three of these gentlemen, maybe not me. So yeah. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for hosting us, Artie. It's your support of the convention over time and the different iterations has been wonderful. So we're looking forward to seeing you face to face at a convention.
That would be great. Year. That would be splendid. Hey, if well, I don't want to speculate. I may make an appearance, another cameo appearance.
I actually don't know what he looks like without those headphones. So that would
without
be
these
cool.
headphones, yeah, it's like It's like Clark Kent and the glasses. It's just like that. So, so let's talk about this year's winter quarters. What are some highlights of what will be all going on during the convention's runtime?
So when we kind of scheduled the event for tomorrow, right? And of course it starts at in Pacific time it starts at midnight, but it starts at 8 a.m. UTC or GMT, take your pick, and then it goes for 20 hours, and we'll slide across the earth to California. But when we started working on it, Joe Schmidt said, "Hey, what about Rally the Troops as one of the themes of the convention?" So everybody thought it was a fantastic idea, as many of Joe's ideas are. Not all of them, but many of them are, Joe. And so we said, let's figure out how to set up some events in that context. Now, Volko has a number of games on Rally the Troops, and so he's going to run a couple of serious, deep events with a couple of his games. And so we're excited about that. And of course, any event that Volko runs is going to get a lot of attention. Volko, how did you pick your games as to which ones? Because you've got at least 3 on there that I can think of.
I have 3, and I hope to have more. But yeah, I have 3. It's Wilderness War, which goes way back for me, and in Abyss, first of the Coin series, and Nevsky, first of Levy and Campaign series. And I felt like I could do 2. Since I'm elderly, my energy doesn't keep up for 20 hours like you.
I have no idea what you mean, Volko.
And I thought, what would be most interesting, and so to folks, because of course I know them all, and Rally the Troops is just, I think, just universally fantastic. So anything really will do. And so we just asked on social media, and happily got some responses, and it was definitely Wilderness War and Nevsky above Andy and Abyss, which is just fine. So I'll do Wilderness War. It'll be, so I'm on East Coast time, so I'm going to be talking East Coast time, but 10 a.m. Saturday East Coast time for Wilderness War, and demo. So it will be not, you don't need to know anything. And the way I tend to like to do demos is to ask folks, at least a couple of intrepid folks, to represent each side, and then sort of in open discussion and loose teams, if you will, actually go through some moves so that folks are getting a chance to make decisions in the game. And that has to do with getting to see, I think, better how the game works. But a part of my agenda will also be just showing you how Rally the Troops works, which is a really easy task because it's extremely, to me, intuitive interface. And the magic of it, of course, if folks who don't know, is you cannot play the game wrong. It enforces the rules correctly. And the guy behind it, who I understand is going to be bopping about HistCon as well. I think so anyway. Um, is just extraordinarily dedicated and meticulous in getting it right. And I know that because it was weeks and weeks and weeks of emails with him where he is asking me on Wilderness War, well, what about this? And what if the players do that? And what about this case? And actually all that unearthed edge cases that in over 20 years of having the game out there, I didn't even know. And, so it was very challenging for me, to go back through rules and say, well, I don't know. Let's think about it. But anyway, so Wilderness War is correct, and the same as the other games. And then Nevsky, which I've demoed before, also on Rally Troops, will be later in the day for me, 3 p.m. Saturday, same deal.
Now, Voko, are you going to be doing anything with this new game that you're working on also at the convention? Obviously, it's not yet available on Rally the Troops.
No. I did want to stick to Rally the Troops. So, and I'm happy to, take questions about it or talk about it or whatever. But the game that I'm working on right now, it's not, of course, not on Rally Troops. It does have a Vassal module, but it is a work in progress. Not only is the game still in playtest, but the playtest Vassal module itself. We have some very dedicated volunteers. Mike Breeson, local to me, did the initial Vassal module, not local to me, but connected to me through folks who are local to me. And Will Bauer, assisted by Grant Linneberg at Pushing Cardboard, are basically continuing to beat this Vassal module into shape so that it can enable us ultimately to do beta testing pretty broadly, where if you have the materials from the game and you have the Vassal module, you should be able to test out without us intervening and to see how it works. Anyway, so that's kind of the long-range plan for that game, but it's not really satisfactory to demo yet. Soon, but not yet.
Okay. So what else, Harold? What else is going on besides? I guess I threw some links to Rally the Troops and to the SD HistCon page into the chat, but Rally the Troops, I notice, feels like it's really gotten a lot of attention, say over the last year and a half, 2 years maybe. Does anybody else feel like it's been kind of the shooting star of? Maybe that's a bad analogy. I don't know. That makes it sound like it's going to go away, and we have no indication that that's the case. But there's an increasing number of
shooting stars are like crashing meteors that burn up in the atmosphere until there's nothing left, or maybe impact in Arizona somewhere, right?
Right. I mean, as soon as I said it, I thought of the Deep Purple song, and I thought,
but it's like meteoric rise. It really doesn't make sense, actually.
Yeah. So I don't think it really works. But there's now.
I like to think so because I think the addition of games available there has accelerated. It seems like I haven't done a timeline, and originally the one thing you could say, the one knock on Rally Troops is there weren't that many games to choose from because it was this labor of love by Tor, and they're a great selection of games, but there are only so many, and now it seems like he's every few weeks he and other volunteers now I think are coding with him. And so that's accelerating. So you have a more variety of games. And so for example, Andean Abyss, I just saw recently that Alexander from the Player's Aid has logged 100 games of Andean Abyss.
That's insane.
The large majority of which I know are on Rally the Troops. It's Rally the Troops that makes that possible.
Yeah. I played a couple games with him of Andean Abyss. It was my first time playing that, and it was great.
Was he any good?
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He better be.
Pretty good. Still learning.
He's okay.
I don't know at what point in the 100 games I got to him at. But no, I love the platform. I think it's so great. Especially, I played a lot of Time of Crisis on it, which I really like as well, too. And then it all started for me playing Shores of Tripoli. Kevin ran the tournament, and that was awesome. It was just so much fun. I did pretty well in the tournament. But I just had a blast. It's such a great platform. It's a real labor of love, and giving it, its flowers, but then also having the opportunity to kind of ease in people to online gameplay and continuing to do that is such a great opportunity for all of us.
Yeah, I'm gonna see Alexander in a couple of months, and I'll make sure you tell him that you said that he's an acceptable Andean Abyss player at this point. I'll tell him you said you keep working on it. You'll get good someday.
I won all the games I played against him, so he needs to work.
And thanks for that interest, Bob. Bob Kowalczyk says, so Levian Campaign series absolutely has it has a core engine and core mechanics and a core rhythm that goes through the volumes. And Almoravid being the second one, and Nevsky the first, is the least distant, in terms of how it works, and has some things that are more complicated, some things are simpler. It's a different setting, a different century, so it is a bit different, but the core engine is the same. And so a great way actually to learn Almoravid is to just get on Rally the Troops with somebody or by yourself and kick around Nevsky, because again, it guides you exactly the right way. And I should say that there's other Levian Campaign going on in SD HistCon that will do the same thing for you. So I'm sure Joe's going to mention a little project called Henry soon. As well, we have, if you happen to be on European time, as Harold was saying, midnight California time, our developer for Levian Campaign is going to be showing Inferno. The same time slot that I'm doing Nevsky, Peter Mojic in Prague is going to show Zizka, which is the Hussite versus the Crusaders war in the 15th century. And any one of those is going to give you it's the same core engine. So there's a lot of ways to, if you have picked up one volume in the series, a lot of ways happening, tomorrow to get into it, get a step into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's free to use, right? Am I wrong about that?
It is not. Rally the Troops is not only free to use, it is advertisement free as well. So Tor, when I say labor of love, I think that's what I don't think Tor eats, sleeps, or works other than creating, running, and refining Rally the Troops. It is really a labor of love, and he doesn't want any hint of it being, a job or money or anything like that. The code is open. Anybody can, do their own games for it if they want to. And you just log yourself in. It costs nothing, and off you go.
Question for
terrible. Sorry to interrupt, Gary.
No,
but
go ahead.
A terrible, conundrum that we have in our part of the hobby, right, where the volumes are just so low that I don't even know that it would be economic to sell seats or whatever, right? I mean, the best they could do is cover some server costs or something. So, so it's wonderful that Tor is willing to do this, and we want to see more Volko games on their tour. So.
Yeah. Well, apparently, and apparently he's working 24/7, 365 on this too. So, from everybody else seems to share that impression.
His quality control ethic is, it's sky high. It's just sterling.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice selection of stuff too. It's not like it would be easy to hear of Rally the Troops, not look at it and assume it's probably all GMT stuff and coin stuff, right? And it's not. There's Columbia's there, and Hollenspiel is there, and Fort Circle is there, and who does 300? I'm not even sure who does 300. And there's this Brian Train thing that I'm also not familiar with.
Spartans.
Yeah, yes. That is Bonsai Games and or Nuts Publishing for 300. Yeah. And it's I'm not sure if this Brian Train Algerian game is this a thing that has been published? Like in physical?
If it's his original one, it was like a micro game in a little box. I don't know if it may have had other editions. Yeah, but it's pre-coin. It's
okay.
Yeah, and it absolutely was published,
Okay, no, there's 4 different editions of it actually. One from One Small Step, a couple from what looks like Micro Game Design Group or Carrie Anderson or both. So yeah, that thing's been around. So there's 18 games on there now, if I counted it correctly. Which is a pretty nice start. Especially is one of the advantages to a platform like Vassal, or I believe this tabletop simulator as well, is that one can like just hop in and do a module for it, right? And I don't know
Right.
how friendly Rally the Troops is to that. I understand that tabletop simulator is very friendly to just being able to hop in and throw a module together.
Right, but Vassal and TTS are not rules enforced, right?
Right.
And that's the wonderful thing about, that's what we all love about Rally the Troops.
And that is very hard to do and to do right. And I mean, I have to tell you, I adore Vassal. I spend a lot of time on Vassal, and I'm able myself, and I'm definitely not a coding person or anything like that. I'm able myself in the Vassal editor to go in, and if I've got the basic, model of a module, go in and make refinements and changes and so forth. And Vassal, like Tabletop Simulator, is friendly enough to use that it's used for just development and playtest very, very effectively. You can do your whole prototype originally on Tabletop Simulator and then just go to physical later, for example. And I think there's a Vassal instruction session, if I'm not mistaken, as one of the events.
Well,
that's great.
There's certainly War Game Boot Camp, and those guys.
War Game Boot Camp. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're doing TTS as well. And I just will say, if not to draw attention from Rally the Troops, it's just unique because it combines high quality user interface with high quality execution of the rules. I mean, it's just unbeatable in that way. So there's really nothing else like it. That said, for the huge variety of games, if it's that you don't have a local opponent for it, it's probably on Vassal, and do not be deterred. Vassal or Tabletop Simulator. Some people more comfortable with the Physics Engine 3D Tabletop Simulator experience. Other people with Vassal, which is less of a facsimile of a physical environment, but to me it's just easier because I'm very clumsy, and I'm clumsy on the computer, and in Tabletop Simulator, I can knock over stacks of pieces and things, or drop dice on the floor. You can't do that in Vassal. The stacks will stay where they.
You can, but there's an undo. So
yeah, and you can always
just fix it.
Yeah. So if you've been curious about playing your favorite tabletop historical game online, and don't know Vassal, then check out that War Game Boot Camp session if that's who's doing it. And they're great guys.
Vassal is also fantastic because you can do kind of the play by email type play with it, where you can have a save date, send that to somebody, have them play their turn. Which is, I think, from. Oh, go ahead, Volker.
Yeah, I was going to say, in Rally the Troops, you can do it anyway. You can do it live, or you can do it async, and you don't have to save. This is kind of a cool thing that you don't have to save it or send it or anything. You just do your move, and then it cues the other guy your opponent.
It's the tiny gnome wizards that live in the server that are taking care of that.
It just does everything. So you can do it. So it's very flexible in that way. Both of them are Vassal and Rally the Troops. I've played them, both ways, async or live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, you're good. Jeff and I are in the middle of what are you calling it, Jeff? Scottish Stratego, or the Hammer of the Scots.
Hammer of the Scots. Yeah,
that we're playing right now.
Scottish Stratego. Should have called it Scottish Stratego. That's actually a more evocative name.
But it's
I would be prepared for just such an event.
Yeah, there you go.
Well prepared. That's all I got to say.
The big thing for me is, one of the things that people talk about often is, well, how can you get somebody into playing these games, and how can we kind of show people how much fun these games can be. And I think that with something like Rally the Troops, because it's so easy, it's very simple to find a friend and be like, hey, check this out, this is how you use it, and then just play back and forth. There are so many people that'll play chess async via apps and stuff like that, so it's a pretty common thing. So I love Tor for doing it. I think it's great, and it's I'm really happy that we have an opportunity to highlight it.
I look forward to more games showing up and more people joining that pool of, I guess we'll call them developers who are developing games for Rally the Troops. I mean, the more the merrier. I'm more of a Vassal guy because of what Voco mentioned as far as just game selection, right? The stuff I tend to want to play tends to be stuff that you find on Vassal, and that Vassal is fairly good at. But the more platforms we have, I think the better, right? Because they're all going to have different strengths and weaknesses, and are going to appeal to different pools of people and different pools of games, right? The game selection that one sees on Vassal is different than the game selection one sees on Tabletop Simulator, and both of those are different from what we see on Rally the Troops, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's funny that there's this dichotomy in the way we play games, right? There are some games that I'll play once or twice, maybe once a year, maybe infrequently, and then other games that I just love to play over and over and over. And it's not every game, right? It's only certain games. For me, it's Twilight Struggle. I play it over and over and over. And then I think I've played Andean Abyss and Cuba Libre, probably the second and third most of any game. So, but there are other games, right? Anything that all the great MMP games, hex and counter games that we love, and I'll play them infrequently. But
bring us war in Europe. Get Tor on the line.
Yes.
Tell them we demand war in Europe immediately.
Campaign for North Africa.
There you go. You could automate that.
My guess is that Tor would not bite at that, but if somebody took that on who can program in what the Java, whatever the language is that he uses, I'm sure he would host it. So it's a matter of somebody, stepping forward and taking it on.
Yeah, I have no idea what the engine looks like as far as developing the engine itself.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a not inconsiderable amount of work to build a module for any of these things from scratch. And it's got to be. I mean, I would think it's more challenging for Rally the Troops because of the rules enforcement. I would think that's built into the module, right?
Hugely, and especially if you want to get it right, because I just know from going through that process with Tor that you end up refining the game design itself, because you really, there's no slough, there's no sort of, well, the players will figure that out, right? The program has to handle it. And if you're conscientious about it, has to handle it correctly. And if you're doing a game that people know and like, you just can't have it. You can't just have it either be ambiguous or make up stuff or make up answers. And where do you go as an authority? If you're doing an out of print game, who says what's right? Because you find out no rule set covers everything.
Well, you just have to look at the 40 years plus years of errata for campaign for North Africa and figure it out from there, right?
Tor absolutely researches BGG and goes through all that. If he doesn't, if he has a designer to work with, then he'll say, okay, this designer is authoritative. Or if he has a publisher who's willing to, represent the correct version of the game, he'll work with that person or entity. And if not, he just himself goes through the BGG kind of discussions and has to make his own decisions about what is the best way to resolve these issues. And fortunately, his judgment is great. It's very sound.
The amount of programming as such required to create a Vassal module is not as high as people think. The vast majority of the work is just putting the assets together, to be honest. Because you have, let's say you want to do a monster game. It's got 1,600 counters. Well, I need 1,600 times 2 files right there. Fronts and backs, right, are separate files, and then you got to build the logic in. But most for building the logic, you can mostly work with established.
Yeah, the models are
fragments.
there, right?
Yeah. Whereas but it doesn't enforce rules, right? If you're going to program the rules, then you got to program the rules.
Yeah.
I would think that's the most challenging
part. And there's
part.
some programming you can do. You can do automated setups of, for example, you can kind of program in the different options for what could I do with this piece? What are the different things that could have in this piece? And you could have a drop-down menu, and then the player could, or not do that, just let the players move things around, right? So there is some of that, but there's not that I'm aware. As far as I'm aware, there's no module of Vassal done where it absolutely constricts you to play the game correctly. Right.
I've never seen
Right.
it.
It's still up to you, like it is with a physical tabletop game, to know the rules.
Mhm.
And that's very, very challenging, but that's what Rally the Troops does. It shows you what you can do. It prevents you from doing things you can't do by the rules. You will play the game right. You might not play it great, effectively as a competitor, but you will play it properly.
So like I said, I feel like Board Game Arena has been mentioned here, and I feel like, because I looked at Unconditional Surrender on that, and it feels kind of, and here's another one, right? It does feel a little bit like Rally the Troops has been so good that it has stolen away some of the attention that was previously being given to Board Game Arena to me.
Yeah, I didn't know Unconditional Surrender was there. That's cool.
And PAX Premier, and but I think Board Game Arena bows to the quantity, right? That they really, a good number of what they do, what they push through is things that are played a great deal, right?
Oh,
you
yeah,
play
yeah.
Yahtzee and checkers and chess and all sorts of basic games that people will play on en masse, and it's also a very user friendly to match players up that don't know each other quickly, and has a rating system for how often people drop out. It's it's a very different vibe, but again, a kind of a core vibe that pulls in games that are played a lot.
Just to jump in off of that, Harold, because I also noticed there's one session or spot in SD HistCon that if you want to get matched up for a game on RTT, right, you can go there. I'm just trying to think where that was now.
It's at the bottom of the Discord list of rooms. There are a number of open play rooms, and I think Jeff, and maybe it was you too, Joe, put some instructions there on how to get started on Rally the Troops if somebody wanted to come in and match.
Yeah, it was Zilla Blitz and Jeff, and
Yeah.
I think other members of the board and kind of the people running the con. The idea is, one of the great things about going to an in-person con is that you have a game, you see somebody, you're like, hey, let's try this out and let's play this. And we want to kind of replicate that as best we can. So it's a great opportunity for people to kind of pop in, pick a game, play it, just fun.
And I would say for that, wherever your level is of, I have to be kind of this confident to just play a game that I don't know or don't know that well, that level of confidence, you can be much, much less confident if it's Rally the Troops, right? Because it is going to guide players through. Again, you won't necessarily know what to do to win, but it will already teach you just by how it shows you what your possible moves are. So give it a shot.
And depending on the game, you could get a couple games in. Like we were talking about 300 earlier. That plays really fast, especially if you're all playing back and forth. You can figure out how to play it. You can make mistakes, not build the bridge as Darius or, as the Persians to cross over, whatever. And then just say, all right, let's run it back. Let's play again. So
I'm pretty sure Alexander can get through an entire game of Andy and Abyss in about 13 and a half minutes at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Now, Tor keeps stats on everything, so your losses will be recorded, but I believe you can delete your games if you want to.
Will there be a wall of shame?
Well, we definitely want Alexander's stats, Volko, if you can get
that. He's got them.
Yeah, sure.
He has them.
There's no HIPAA requirement, right? We can have his stats.
So I don't think there's no presumption of privacy on Rally the Troops.
He's a foreign national anyway. You are not going to be extradited back to the UK for this.
Oh, he's in Sweden, I think. Yeah,
even better.
We may not even have an extradition treaty. Yet.
Absolutely not. Not that I know from experience. I'm just saying. But hey, Gary, there were some questions early on about the basics of the convention that I didn't mention. Right, the convention's all online. So what we do is you sign up for a mere $10, right? And the value for $10 is extraordinary, given that it's 20 hours of gaming if you're willing to stay awake, or any number of events that you can pop in and pop out.
Both coffee and heroin can be made available.
Well, yeah, coffee at least.
You're right. It's BYOH. However,
Yeah, in California
just so you know,
you can't have heroin, but maybe in Ohio, I don't know.
no.
Okay, so
Well, I mean, you're not supposed to.
You can bet on sports in Ohio.
That's
so.
true.
Don't
Get me started on that.
We're on Discord, so the entire event's on Discord. So you'll go to tabletop events. Gary shared the link. You would sign up there. You can come in. You can come in at night and jump in the morning. We'll have registration open for a little bit on and off during the night and tomorrow. And then you then get the link to Discord. You join us on Discord, and then you surf. And when Volko bores you after about 30 minutes, then you just say, "I'm out of here, Volko. I'm going to go here."
Rome. That's that's the motto for this con. Rome.
Yes, Rome. Yeah, it's
Roam
interesting,
around.
right? We used to have rigid scheduling, so you could schedule something, but you couldn't do anything else during that time, and it was all, and it kind of felt like that's what we should do. But then when you really think about the capability of an online convention, and that you should be able to move at your whim, because if I pop into Volko's session, I don't bother him as long as I mute my mic, which I forget sometimes.
Yeah. And if everybody's doing it, I mean, if everybody's popping in and out and roaming around, then I'm not going to have my feelings hurt as in the past when people leave.
Yeah. Look, I have to pick up the pieces when you all hurt Volko's feelings. So,
But I mean, I'm just going to say, well, it's nothing personal. Everybody's doing it now.
It's the thing.
It's the thing.
But so $10 buys you that, and then you can hang out on the server for a little bit. We do 2 of these conventions online a year. We're going to do another one in June that will be a very similar format. We're always experimenting with things. So the things
Spring quarters.
Spring quarters, yeah. Spring. I don't know, Joe. Do we have a name for June?
I think
It's my birth
not
month.
yet.
So
yeah, we can do the Herald special or something.
yeah. Happy birthday, Harold.
Happy Herald
And then of course August is the Navy War College, so we should in March be putting tickets for sale there. That sold out in 5 days last time, so be ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd be shocked. Will there be a similar attendance cap for that event this year as there was last year?
It is, and you made a comment about the facility, but there was something very special about being inside that museum.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
I mean, yeah. So, there was a gun from a ship that the British had sunk outside Newport during the siege of Newport, which was Mark Miklos' game, Newport, the Battle of Rhode Island, and of course he's playing the finals in front of this British cannon that pulled up from the. So that's what it's like, right? There are torpedoes and maps and pieces of things and a map that Mark Herman designed 30 years ago was on display. There's all sorts of interesting.
Cool map too.
I had Hunt for Blackbeard there, which is the Battle of Ocracoke and its Bermuda sloops, and it wasn't a Bermuda sloop, but there was a beautiful model of basically a military sloop from a little bit later in the century, but could have been. To my eyes, it's like the same thing. Yeah, it's just gorgeous what's in that museum.
And outside, right? I mean, these are the halls that Nimitz walked, right, before.
Oh yeah.
And so we all got a tour of that, and then
not only Nimitz, but Mark Herman, for goodness sake.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's. I don't want to say once in a lifetime because this will be the second one, right? But I mean, it really did feel like a really special event because of that location. And there's probably a bit of exclusivity happening there too, where you capped it at whatever it was. I don't know if you publicly announced that number or not, but I know there was an attendance cap. Because
it's in August. It's in August. Rhode Island's nice in August.
Yeah.
Are there actual dates yet?
Second weekend in August.
So
we're going to be touring history on Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day gaming.
Yeah,
that sounds pretty awesome.
They have this great thing in Rhode Island. for their calamari, they mix in banana peppers, and it's great. It's like really, really good. So aside from the gaming, I'm excited about that.
I'm not sure I could find banana peppers that exciting, but I'm willing to give it a shot.
Banana peppers in calamari. I'm telling you, not for you, Volko, but for everybody
Well,
else.
Volko can have the banana peppers.
Yeah, you can have the banana peppers.
You can pick the calamari out of it.
Yeah.
Are there dates for November yet, though? I assume.
Yes, it will be Veterans Day weekend. So again, I think the second weekend, and it will be a 4-day event this time: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, which is a holiday for many people.
Yeah.
And so that's it. Yeah, Chet was there, and the atmosphere was awesome. We were actually afraid that a war gamer might put a sandwich on some sort of artifact or something.
Some priceless artifact from days of yore.
Yeah, and they told us we were better behaved than other patrons, so that made us feel good. But
well,
we're going to do another chance.
So you did screen attendees, then I take it. I mean, I wasn't there to be obnoxious, so they probably didn't know any better.
We didn't screen anybody.
That's true, yeah. So you had to pass, and I assume this will be the same type of deal this year too, where you've got to actually pay because it's on an active military base. You've got to pass a certain security clearance.
If you have a history of terrorism or espionage, don't bother with HistCon. Go to Herald's in November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll take anybody.
Yeah, the screen's not nearly but it's an intense screening too, right? It's very personal. It's social security number and a long application, and then a long period of time where you don't really know what's going on. The guidance from the people in security is basically that you're going to be okay unless, as Volko said, you're on the do not fly list or there's a felony in your background, that kind of thing. But so
well, that eliminates a couple of gamers that I know.
Yeah, we'd still like you to try.
Yeah, you might sneak by. There was a good question we had that you popped up there, Artie. On the Discord video sessions.
Yeah.
Elaborating how those work. So essentially, there's a streaming option that Discord has. So people, designers, like for example, I am doing a demo of Henry, the Levian campaign game that I'm designing. I have that in Tabletop Simulator. So in Discord, I will be able to stream that. Anybody who's in that Discord channel will be able to pop on and watch it. And the first couple people who are there, if anybody's interested, they'll be able to log in if they have Tabletop Simulator to check that out. For others, if we're using Vassal, if you have all the Vassal modules and everything, which don't take too long to download or set up, you'll be able to set those up and play that way. But really, this goes back to Rally the Troops. One of the big reasons we thought this was such a kind of a win-win, because you don't need to do any of that. You just got to go to the website. You have to create a login. That's it. So, but we're going to make sure that there's lots of opportunities for you to see the video and stream and talk about those things. And I know myself, but also all the other designers who will be there demoing their games are very, very excited to show them to everybody, to talk about them. So often we just spend all of this time talking to our families and significant others about the games we design, and they get really sick of it. So we're excited for a captive audience. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah, I've had that discussion this week already. I got you've been talking an awful lot about this game table business. Discussion about a week ago.
But that's an awesome game table.
It's pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with it.
Have you played something on it already?
Yeah, I just some solitaire stuff though. I set up some GCACW and fooled with that. So eventually I'll have humans will be by to play games on this table. But
that'll be cool.
I hope no one spills a grape soda on it or anything like that.
They will be murdered and stuffed in my crawl space.
That's
with everyone else.
Yes, he'll enjoy the remaining human remains in the crawl space.
Just don't mention that part to the security guys in Rhode Island.
No. I just gotta hope that the CIA or whoever's doing the check-in doesn't watch the show.
We'll
be fine. Otherwise, this guy's
Yeah, I mean,
clearly.
unless they ask you that question directly, then tell the truth. But if they don't ask,
I don't have to tell them about the bodies buried, where the bodies are buried, or about what other nefarious activities I've gotten myself up to, like wargaming. There was a running joke back in the day so let me restart that story. There was an old Dragon magazine. There was a monthly strip called Wormy, and one of the running gags was that there were like these like little dragons and trolls and stuff were wargamers, but wargaming was illegal, so they had to like flee the authorities from time to time. So, and some mileage was gotten up with that language. Not tonight, Molotov Cocktail Games. John Stanley, thank you so much for the support. It was Stonewall Jackson's Way 2. I did video on it. You should watch that.
I didn't realize we were supposed to pay something to get on or talk.
You don't have, well, I mean, any honorarium will be much appreciated, but,
Sure. Hey, so Gary, a couple of other things just to give you a feel. We talked about the events and Joe demoing his game, which is coming up on P500, and then Volko, of course, with his great stuff. I just want to go through a few of the events and talk about those. And Joe's got a great panel that I'll let him talk about as well. But 8 a.m. Eastern time, and then 5 a.m. on the West Coast. Uli Blenneman is going to do a Spielworks state of the organization presentation, which is awesome, right? Uli's a fantastic guy, a born war gamer. He brought Weimar to us through this last iteration, and so that's pretty cool. And then, of course,
everything sounds amazing about that except the 3 a.m. start time.
Well, that part is 8 a.m. Pacific, right? And you're Eastern, right?
That's true.
Yeah, so get up at 8. Come on. You're sleeping on a Saturday. What are you doing?
We'll see.
And he's also doing something on Weimar and why it's important. Let's see. Then we've got the coffee on the West Coast at 8 a.m. West Coast, which is 11 a.m. your time. You should be able to make that. Of course, the problem is it conflicts with events run by both Volko and Mark Herman, so I don't expect to see anybody at the coffee. I saw Ed there. We've got Infernal Machines demo, which is on P500. That'll be on. Vuka Sims is doing the new Cold War at multiple U.S. times, which is awesome. We do the Summit Award. I know that you're heavily involved and we believe you run and control the CSR awards, Gary, but we have a little award we call the Summit Award this year. Votes for Women won the award, and so there's a panel of those that were nominated, which includes Taylor Schuss, Cole will be there, and of course, let's see. Then I see Henry here. We've got Vez and his game Order and Opportunity. So a lot of post Cold War stuff.
That looks super interesting to me too.
Yeah, agreed. And then we have Dan Bullock's running a panel with Liz Davidson and Amabel on unsavory play, casting players in difficult roles. Which
I will appreciate it if somebody could let me know if I'm talked about in that conversation.
Yeah. Well, originally it was basically Gary Mangle was the title.
What a tool this guy is.
Yeah. So I think that's changed. Herman Lutman and Ryan Heilman are doing an event where they're going to talk about things they're working on, which is pretty cool.
So that'll be 7.5 hour runtime, FYI.
Ricardo Mosini is working on Wargaming 2.0, playing with history in the digital age, which is timely given what we're talking about. Another panel, and then I'll let Joe talk about his panel, but panel of the most interesting historical games of 2023, which is Dan Thoreau will be running that. The wonderful and eloquent Dan Thoreau. And of course, he will also have, let's see if I can remember, Amabel's there, Meeple Lady's there, and Natalia's there to discuss. And I've been, sending all of them emails about nominations of various games. Not mine, but mine's at 22, of course, but certainly my favorites. So that'll be interesting. Now, Joe, you're working with the Georgetown crew, right?
Yes, the Georgetown University Wargaming Society, who are great. They have a bunch of great videos that they post of chats that they've done. I was lucky enough to do one. They're very fun, but in this particular one, we're going to be looking at some micro games designed by Nicholas Warner, Rachel McVicker, and Walter Kunkel. I'm really excited about this. I love micro games. I love when people are working in that kind of field and designing things. And Georgetown University and this group has a lot of really cool things going on. So that should be a really exciting panel.
Harold is muted.
Sounds much better though.
Watch it.
Crystal clear.
Be nice, Volko. The other one that's of interest is Jason Matthews is going to do a panel on wargaming in Africa. So Brian Train will be there. Some others, maybe I can figure out who else, but talking about that, of course, Brian or Jason did Twilight Struggle Red Sea, but we also have so Brian, we have Phil Kendall, Christopher Davis, and Jan Dave Villeneuve. So that's going to be an interesting panel of an area that we don't talk a lot about, and I'm excited. So tons of events and lots of overlap. A common complaint to us as we do surveys at the end to see how we can improve what we do is there's too much stuff. I can't go to everything. Can you please record it and spoon feed us? And frankly, we record a few events, but not many. And we'll make those available. For example, our friend Grant Pushing Cardboard is going to do an interview with, who is he interviewing? Help me out, guys. I will tell you, Mike Ranella.
Mike Ranella.
Yeah, so he's interviewing Mike, and he's going to record that. So you'll see that video and podcast coming out the back. So there'll be some things, but our view is that generally we want you to be there and to interact and mix, and that's why we keep the price point low and affordable.
Yeah, there's another event I spotted that I just wanted to mention, which is an introduction to Shield Wall, which is, let's see what time it's happening. It's 3 p.m. Eastern. 3 p.m. Eastern for an hour and a half or so. And this is, by the description, I know nothing about this. This is the first time I encountered this. It's pretty cool. This is sounds like based on the coin series game Pendragon by Morgan Guyon Reddy that I developed and also did the solitaire for. But anyways, Pendragon coin series, which is the fall of Rome and Britain. This is based on Pendragon doing the rise of the Kingdom of Wessex. So if you are into the show The Last Kingdom, it's that time, or I guess 878 Vikings as well, that game. And so I guess it's Coleman is hosting it, and I guess it's an early look at this design, which this might be the first place you get a peek at that, because as I say, it's I hadn't heard of it until I saw that event listed. Sounds really cool.
I'm all over that. That sounds fantastic. Yeah. And Pendragon, what my favorite coin game is depends on what day you ask me. But 1 out of 3 days, it's going to be Pendragon. Phenomenal game.
Yeah, I agree.
So, the schedule, I will put to answer a question in the chat. I will drop a link directly to the schedule. Harold, did you mention like the 55 things that Mark Herman's doing?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's. I spent an hour on the phone with him today talking about completely unrelated subjects.
That's
he's. He just called me, so he's probably called me to talk about his game. So I'm glad.
Hey, you forgot to mention.
Yeah, yeah. So, he's working on a book. Did you know that?
Oh, I think the book's done, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, we interviewed him about it, actually.
To figure out like printing and distribution. He wants it to be a quality product. So, so he's working on two things. One is he's going to do a Rebel Fury demo, so a demo of the game that's on P500, and everybody's excited to play some really an interesting difference in graphic presentation of the counters, which I like. So some pretty cool stuff. So he's going to spend some time with that. But then the other thing he's going to do is, he loves Empire of the Sun, and I've tried a number of times to get him to tell us what his favorite game, right? What's the best game you've ever done? And Volko, you've got the question coming at some point. You're going to have to answer. But what's the game? And he won't answer it, but in my opinion, it's clearly Empire of the Sun. And he loves to, we do scenarios and presentations on how to play and how to play and how to play. So this time he's doing something a little different. He's going to do Japanese strategy for the opening game. And, a very popular event, one of the top 5 events for ticket buyers. So that's going to be awesome.
And it's only 90 minutes, so when you're done learning from Mark Herman what a great Japanese opening strategy is in Empire of the Sun, you can pop right over to Wilderness War, and it will count for my total of attendees compared to Mark's total of attendees. So, please.
Right. Yeah, Empire of the Wilderness.
Just join us in progress.
Yeah, so no, that's fantastic. And what else jumped out at me? I noticed there's a Red Strike demo from the folks at VUCA, as I recall.
Yeah.
There's a Molly House game, which is that hasn't been published yet, has it?
No,
I know it was crowdfunded, but I think it hasn't actually released.
Published, printed, and delivered.
Okay, and then there was another one that jumped out at me, and it fled my mind. I've already mentioned Order and Opportunity, which looks super duper interesting. Yeah. There is a Night Witches demo. I think are Liz and David covering that, I assume? Yes. Okay, that's fantastic. So the 2 co-designers on a super interesting topic, and I've actually observed some gameplay of it. It's pretty slick.
I was able.
No, the Fate of All from Fabrizio and the folks at Thin Red Line Games. That's pretty exciting as well. Yeah. That unfortunately, I'm probably going to be on the phone with an important phone call at that time. Unfortunately,
is it Mark Herman again?
No, it's not. I'll tell you who it's with, just not on the air. Okay. But it is not Mark. So, okay, I'll accept this since I have it. You can't see it; it's not in frame, but it's on the shelf with the other SPI stuff. So yeah, it's a great spread of events that run. They've literally, this is Eastern time, of course, this the civilized time zone. They start at 3 a.m. with a demo of Inferno, and they end at 10 p.m. and that is the wrap-up show, which will be right here tomorrow. Yeah. So 10 p.m. Eastern, I have to do math at this hour. 7 p.m. Pacific time. Correct me if that's wrong, Harold.
Yeah. No, we're looking forward to returning, and I might even bring Mark Herman with me when we come back.
There you go.
Just a balance, because he and Volko are highly competitive, and it's good to have the counterpoint.
Yeah. So you're doing at this point, it sounds like 2 in-person like you meaning the SD HistCon organization. I'm Harold's the main man, of course, but he's got folks helping him out too. Sounds like you're doing 2 in-person events then and 2 digital events per year. Is that the sort of plan moving forward?
That's where we are now, and the addition of the Navy War College last year was a big step in that regard. The Summit Award is going to be annual, and don't expect that to grow dramatically, but you might see another category or 2 pop in that we think is another nice layer for the industry. And then we have conflicts of interest easing with content, not just history, but we try to put some stuff in there that is on the culture of historical gaming and the what's and the hows, and so that's also exists, and more to come. But we in the past year, Gary, we formalized the organization into a not-for-profit corporation. So we have 9 board members that are the board of directors, including Joe and myself.
Yeah, he's right though. John C is absolutely right here.
What's
I
that?
think you'll agree that Volko's shadow looks a lot like Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
I am Abraham Lincoln.
There you go.
I'm just glad that John's listening to me and instead of looking at Volko's shadow, which is kind of odd. The other, Gary, I'll continue on my
No,
speech.
please.
You know, we also have 8 members of board of advisors, and Volko, of course, is one of those, and other notables. So we've really formalized the organization into a group of people with common interests. None of us are compensated, so we go out and we do this, and we try to provide scholarship to get people to our conventions. More important for the face-to-face. But that's important. And then also we have members that travel a long way to get to San Diego, for example. And so we support them with expenses as well. And then, at the end, we expect to have a little bit of a surplus, and that's going to go to charity. For example, Zenobia 1, SD was the largest financial supporter of Zenobia Award. And, we would like to be that again, right? I mean, our view is that there's nothing else we could spend money on as SD that would be any more effective or as effective as Zenobia in creating, especially with the success of Zenobia 1, creating a new group of gamers, designers, and published games.
Mm-hmm. So this sounds like it's going to go over quite well. I found the thing I was looking for. John Butterfield demoing his new version of Hell's Highway. Sounds fantastic.
That's awesome. And Patrick Pence also mentioned his event, which is I think number 2 overall, which is he's just going to teach people Combat Commander.
Mm-hmm.
And I laugh about it. First of all, Patrick's a great teacher, and we all know that. But who'd have thunk it, right? Hey, I'm just going to teach Combat Commander. Great, go ahead, Patrick. And then it's just an overwhelming demand for what he's doing. So
great testament to Chad Jensen.
Yes,
yes. I want to call out one I think that we missed in particular that I think is really interesting. The Hammer and Sickle teach and play.
Yes, I noticed that too.
Yeah.
That's Alex Knight's new game.
Yeah, fantastic designer, cool guy, and it's a really interesting take on a very big conflict. So if you're free, check that out too.
Yeah. I actually don't intend to be there for that, partially because I intend to be at Costco instead. But I know I'm buying that, so they don't really need to take this opportunity to sell it to me.
I'm interested in a lot of the things, and I'll be at a lot of the events. But I want to get a hat for Volko that simulates Abraham Lincoln's hat, so that because now I'm obsessed with Volko's shadow. Thanks, John Sy.
It's fantastic. So any other specific events here at the show this weekend that we want to mention?
There's a ton, Gary. I don't.
There's a ton. What's the numeric total? Is it like 100 events or something like that?
It's 65-ish.
Okay, that's a lot.
So in that ballpark, yeah, it's a lot, and it's growing. Every now and then a new one pops up. I see, that it'll be the same next year. And again, it's an embarrassment of riches and more than you can cover, and that's the way we like it.
Is there? So, did you say you did have dates for the event in August yet, or you just know August?
Yeah, it's the second weekend in August.
Second weekend in August. Did I write that down?
I'm going to look and get you some dates.
Okay. Yeah, get us dates.
And March is when we get when the tickets go on sale.
And then, so that gives everybody some opportunity to make sure their clearance with the federal government goes through before they pay for tickets.
Yes.
So, if you don't think you're going to pass the background check, maybe come to Origins. We'll take anybody. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know if we've mentioned Border Reavers, but that's another case of a designer, teaching his own game at Beach.
Yeah.
Very accomplished designer, of course.
Oh yeah.
And then Ed's doing Infernal Machines, and he I don't know if Dr. Jerry White is going to be there, but Ed promises that he might.
That was actually mentioned in the chat, but it was like 45 minutes ago, so I'm not going to try to find it now. But that's pretty cool. And
Was it
what?
mentioned before or after the Volko Shadow?
Well, way before. There's some great events. There's some great sessions, some great demos, some what look like roundtables or interviews. So there's a lot of really good stuff here. I will agree with the folks who say the schedule is a little compact. Have you thought about like stretching this out over 2 days instead?
We've done that
Just
right?
to space it out, right?
Yeah, we've done this over 2 or 3 days. Part of the issue we have is just fatigue of the crew, right? So it's a pretty intense 20 hours for us, and actually the days rolling up, right? We've opened the Discord server. We're letting people in. We're asking them to adjust their names. We're cross-referencing it to tickets. And we're training people. We always have a certain percentage, right? As our number grows, and we'll be probably 10% at least above where we were last year. We add a few people that don't mess with Discord, so we try to give them adequate time so that they're comfortable. So all of these things are all coming together at the same time, and then we've got 20 hours of work. So we're pretty fatigued as a group, and it just doesn't make any sense for us. I mean, I know as it relates to demand, spreading it out and doing it over 2 or 3 days would be great, because then everybody can easily go through it. But it's just not. It doesn't work, and kind of keep us all robust and willing to do it again.
So we're probably not going to see one of these a quarter next year, is what I'm hearing. I mean, you kind of do have one a quarter anyway, but I don't imagine that online events like this are going to go away, right? We are seeing this all over analog gaming spaces of games that are traditionally played analog but are played online now, of people like collectively doing these online conventions. I've seen this in, there's a couple of wargame forward events like this now, and there's some RPG forward events that do this. There's Mayday is the Traveler one, so that's of course the one I know about. Which is just a bunch of people getting together on Discord for a structured set of Traveler events for a weekend. So we're not going to see the online events go away, much less online play. That's all here to stay.
They're different, right? I mean, I think that first of all, there are some people that don't like to or want to travel to a physical convention.
Oh, that's totally true.
And so we're happy to serve that group, as the Armchair Dragoons guys and Brandt's crew do as well, and do a great job. So
oh yeah, absolutely.
We're happy to do that. And then the other thing is that the events are different, right? I mean, imagine if Volko did something at a physical convention, which he does, but can we put 25 people around Volko as he walks through a game? It doesn't work. But online, everybody can look over his shoulder, and then
at Origins we call that Brandt's problem. That is a mere engineering difficulty.
25 people.
Yeah, that's Brandt's problem. Volko, we'd love you to show up. I'm just saying. But anyway, pray continue.
Yeah, so it's the nature is different. It's also funny, right? There was a lot of face-to-face play, one-on-one, two guys playing a game or people at a physical convention, and we don't see that at the online convention for the most part, right? I mean, we want it to happen. We've tried to facilitate it, but it just doesn't. The pickup games aren't there, especially when you have all these events that people want to go and see and watch. There's our buddy Grant.
Yep. With it's a pretty compact timetable, but I mean, what you're saying makes sense, right? You've got, I'm sure, the legions of underlings that you have helping out with this make it very easy to run, but it's probably pretty intense. 20 hours.
Well, everybody plays a role, whether they're putting on an event or they're recruiting or facilitating or doing technical work. Everybody plays a role. Now, one other thought, we've kind of merged the online with the physical for both the August convention and the November convention. For example, in August, we had 7 pre-con video events. So we invited just the attendees, right? So 70-ish attendees, and they came, and then they heard either a presentation from Naval War College faculty on what they do and how they do it. Mark walked us through Plan Orange. Volko walked us through one of his games. I think Blackbeard. Volko, I think you walked us
For
through.
Blackbeard. Mm-hmm.
So and it was very intimate, right? It's very close, very small. We all got to know each other. So by the time we show up, we've seen each other's faces. We've talked about these games, and it was powerful. We did the same thing for the November convention in San Diego. We had a series of meets and panels that were just exclusive to that group, and really, enabled us to do some cool things. So we're trying to merge physical and online for the two physical events. And again, Joe's big brain, Joe said, hey, why don't we just set up a Discord, get everybody in there and start mixing? And it was brilliant. And, that's good ideas or what we're trying to multiply.
Yes. I believe the expectation is that everyone will go to every event simultaneously.
Yes.
So as long as you have a Dr. Evil type wall of monitors, you'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing is just one loud, piercing scream for 20 hours.
It's like white noise.
Yeah.
What are you doing down there in that basement? What's that goddamn noise?
Now, it's funny that you say that, because you and I were on together once, and your mom was making comments about us.
Oh, that was after the show, though. Yes, it was after the show. So I was texting her about something.
About talking, and she was making fun of you or something.
No. What it was that was right around the time that the dog got sprayed by a skunk, and so I had gotten a picture of the skunk outside, and I had sent it to her, and then first I had named the skunk something like Fritz, or I forget what the skunk's name was. But she thought that when I was talking about Fritz, I was talking about that guy I was on the stream with the other night, which was you. So I think I sent you that screenshot, and it was hilarious. I thought that was hilarious. She has I forget what the name was, but she doesn't really watch the show. My dad has it on in the background.
Yeah.
So she sees that it is a thing that is happening without paying any attention to it at all.
Well,
I assure you, I did not name the skunk Harold.
I don't believe that now. And if your parents are watching, they did a wonderful job, and we appreciate the work that they did in forming Ardwulf.
They were very little assistance, really. I don't know.
There's no nurture.
Everybody's got their own traumas, right? But I did fine, but this was not a thing. Like, the things I'm passionate about, like history and games and things like that, were not things that we did in the family, right? That anybody at any point took any interest in but me. So, reading when, things are written down, and, there are these things called books with letters in them. Nobody cares about any of that.
No, the horror of my parents when I was in high school, when I would set up a 2-map Mech War 2 and moving those counters around, and they're like, what in the world are you doing?
I'm debating whether to tell the anecdote or not. So I'm going to use, if no one objects, there's going to be an F-bomb in here.
Please.
So, and it's part of the quote, it's part of the fun of the story, it's part of why it's a good story. So my friends and I were getting together on a weekly basis to play Case Blue. And there was a point at which, I don't know, there was a car was in the shop or something like that. So I had my wife drop me off at the game. And she's like, okay, I'm going to go do X, Y, Z, and K, and I'm going to go, I'll be back in 6 hours or whatever. So like 3 hours later, she texts me, and she's like, I'm out in the car. I'm done with everything I needed to do. I'm just going to wait out here. So my buddy, whose house we're playing at, is like, all right, so she can't sit out in the car. Have her come in. So we have her come in. So she sits in the basement and watches us play OCS for about 3 hours. So we wrap this up for the day. We get back in the car. I drive away, and she looks at me and says, that is the most boring fucking thing I have ever seen in my entire life. I don't know how you guys can just sit there for hours and just push pieces around, put hundreds of pieces around, and look stuff up in the book and fart. That was the entire plan. That was her vision of the experience. So,
is that a pretty good description of OCS or
of the way we were playing? Yes, absolutely. We move hundreds of pieces around mostly in silence. And occasionally look stuff up in the rule book, and generally there's some flatulence involved at some point. I mean, we are there for 6 or 8 hours at a time. So
that's great. Well, so, I have a similar story that's much simpler. But when we had a weekend, we would go play Bloody April, right? The big box from SPI, and we would take the mattress off my queen bed and set up the game on the box spring, and then spend all weekend, me and 2 other guys there in that room, right, playing. And I just remember a couple of times my dad standing in the doorway looking at us like, "Woo! Anybody want to go outside?"
Just say, "Can you guys open a window or something?" Or maybe this is a good place for a stick up. So,
well, Gary, thanks for allowing us the opportunity to sit here and talk about the con and what's going on,
and flatulence,
and flatulence, yeah, and Volko's shadow, which still
looks like Abe Lincoln. I mean, to an uncanny degree. Volko, check you're looking at yourself. So, yeah, all you need is a top hat, and it's literally. I thought it was either Abe Lincoln or Daniel Day-Lewis's silhouette. I couldn't tell.
I'm often mistaken for Daniel Day-Lewis, actually.
Obviously. No, I would like to thank all you guys for coming. Harold, thanks for setting this up, and thanks for being the at least the public front of the SD HistCon and setting all these events up. And thanks to Volko and Joe for coming tonight.
Thank you.
And we will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time. What's that?
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for the con
to 10
in the morning, too.
10 p.m. Eastern time. So for those folks who are, I'm not doing the math to figure out what it is in Greenwich time anymore. So Volko's shadow, they double bill with Spock's beard, I guess. So, all right. So I'd like to thank, once again, everybody for coming out tonight. We had 80, 90 people here most of the time. I'd like to give a special thanks and shout out to Harold and Joe and Volko for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
So everybody have a great night, and hopefully we will see as many of you as possible tomorrow.
Thank you.